Good evening, everybody. Hex Misha here, and welcome to Hex Grassroots. This is Hex Grassroots number 11, and our special guest today will be Matt from Crypto Heartbeat, a person that I'm very looking forward to talk to him, and I was very happy that he would come on our stream. I've been watching him for a long time. He's a very active member of the community, a real grassroots Hexican, and I am delighted. But as always, let me introduce my co-host who is with me already, Meister Hex. How you doing?
Thank you, Hex Misha. Hey guys, what's up? Meister here. Happy to be back after a very pleasant Christmas time. The stomach is full of sugar, of course. And so the energy is back to just get back on track with another Hex Grassroots episode with yet another special guest. Really looking forward to it. How are you doing, Misha?
Oh, thank you. I'm doing good. You mentioned it, Christmas, and especially now the days between Christmas and New Year are quite nice to unwind and calm down a little bit. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. You too?
Absolutely. For much Hexicans, there was no break. I saw a lot of streams actually, amongst others from Richard. He did two really nice ones, long
That was so
streams.
nice of him.
Absolutely. So no break for the Hexican for the Hex community, and we are getting back on track now as well with Crypto Heartbeat. So looking forward to invite him any second.
Yeah. You mentioned Richard Hart. He did 2 live streams, and I just want to point out how nice that was. He said some people are alone at Christmas, so let's spend some time together. And he was saying he is giving, he's educating, he's not getting much out of it. He's not learning, he's educating. But that was the nice thing from him, that he was giving. And that was awesome. I loved it.
Absolutely. He spends a lot of time with the community, and also he speaking about Richard Hart, he just announced another great upcoming stream in a couple of hours. Today is a busy day. It's a Hex Grassroots. Then in the evening, a couple of hours later, we will tune in to DJ Cryptomatics live set at Twitch, and in the night, at least for us Europeans, at 2 a.m., as you can see it in the screen, Richard Hart will stream with Meet Kevin, a very big popular YouTuber. And Misha, if I recall correctly, you knew him before Richard interacted with him. Is that correct?
I loosely know him. He's also I think you could say, a workaholic. He's known for having a lot of streams every day. He's basically, I think, originally from Germany, but lives now for a long time in the US. He entered at an early age the real estate market and's been quite successful in there. Nowadays, or lately, he also talks a lot about stocks and ETFs. Like, what I personally connect him with is like whenever Kathy Woods from ARK Invest, she has like innovative tech ETFs. Whenever she does a comment on the current market situation, immediately Meet Kevin does a comment video about the comment from Kathy Woods. So that's how I remember him. And I didn't know he's so much into crypto, which is nice to see. And Kinetics earlier, he said the good thing about Meet Kevin is that he has a lot of subscribers and a lot of other investment crypto people watch him. So this will be a good thing. Let's see. And I think he will also profit from the great Hexican community, because he will get a lot of Richard Hart subscribers. And it's, as we know, it's a very active community. So good for him. Let's see.
Absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm gonna watch it for sure. It's a live stream marathon today.
Yeah, and also our guest, he's been already live streaming today. And is there something you want to share more? Otherwise, I will introduce our guest now.
For now, not. Let's talk about everything together with Crypto Heartbeat. So go ahead, Misha.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. As I said earlier, I'm delighted Matt is with us today. He has a very successful YouTube channel, Crypto Heartbeat, currently at 6.4K subscribers, growing rapidly. I don't see a channel this active with this good content and this much growing subscriber rate. And yeah, he deserves it. He has a nice channel. He goes with some special things, like he has a no cussing policy, which is very nice. It's said to be the YouTube channel that you can share with grandma and all others. He does nice teach-ins, biblical stories where he transfers the ideas to our tech and our pulse chain nowadays. Amazing interviews, among them Hexologist, the CEO of Liquid Loans, Funding Gym. Roughly enjoyed this one. He talks about the responsibility we will have with the new rich, the new resources. We have to decide what we will do with them. And he's been taking actions. He launched the Pulse Promise, you could say, a promise that he will especially talk about later, but with the idea, the intention to do good. He has a saying that goes, the rising tide lifts all boats. And he especially does that because he addresses the older generation, filling the gap, the boomer generation, the no cussing policy, the sharing with grandma, and we all profit from that. He says we have the best community, and he talks a lot about our amazing community. We have the best developer, the best product. But, let's not beat around the bushes, and let's get him on, and he will explain it himself. So I'm delighted, out of Texas, United States, with us tonight, Matt from Crypto Heartbeat.
What's
and
up,
there he
fellas?
is, Matt.
What's up, guys?
Thank you for being here tonight. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Meister, Misha, thank you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk to your audience and just be a part of the conversation.
So
Thank you for coming by. Thank you for coming by. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, this time it's not so early for you, like when you did your first European stream. Remember, you got up really early.
Oh yeah, no, this is much better for me. Yeah, it's noon here, so this is real easy. I appreciate you guys.
But it was super successful, right? It was your first European time zone friendly stream, if I recall correctly, and it had a lot of viewers. Is that correct?
It did, and I found there's a real niche kind of Sunday afternoons here, as well as earlier in the morning. I made the mistake today. I was going to make a recorded video like I do pretty much every day, and I went live just because on a whim, and I stepped on the Discourse Syndicate guys' toes, and I really feel bad about that because it's certainly not my intention. I'm here to support things and not to compete, but yeah, it's been incredible. This has been a whirlwind. The last 90 days have been, it's literally changed. It literally changed what I do day to day.
Yeah. I totally feel you with that point, Crypto Heartbeat, because when we started, we are just a small Hex stream, but we just try to contribute. But I tried to coordinate. So I asked every streamer that I knew back then, what time they usually stream, and it's getting so hard to coordinate actually, because there's so many new streamers like ourselves, even like newer ones. So yeah, it's just amazing. It's exploding, and my vision is also that we have a Hex live stream or Pulse live stream 24/7, and everybody contributes with a channel like you do, like us do. So yeah, looking forward for the future with Hex and Pulse.
No, yeah, it's a total media conglomerate, man. This is going to be incredible. I love it.
Hexican Girl made a nice thread on Twitter today with comment below all the Hex and Pulse Chain YouTuber account that you know. That was pretty cool. We have a great list now.
Oh yeah, no, it's growing so fast, and I think that it was so hard at the beginning for. You think about the beginning of Hex, and when you're starting something really from scratch, Richard obviously had an audience, but it wasn't enormous, and guys took it upon themselves, like RG3 and Hexo and Coffee and Kinetics, and these guys basically said, hey, we're going to take this marketing challenge on ourselves, and really guerrilla marketing in the face of so much headwind when it came to all of the pushback. And I really commend them and give them a lot of credit, because without them, we wouldn't have this opportunity. I mean, there wouldn't be anything. Hex wouldn't be. I mean, the community is what makes it so rich. And we're coming into this new phase. Richard's building this ecosystem with the Pulse Chain and Pulse X and all these other projects, and it's growing. And I think that if you've ever tried to start a pump, you have to prime it first, right? You have to load it with water. And the guys that came early, like especially like Hexo, every single day for 570 days was pushing it. And without guys like that, he just made the path straight for us. And we owe a ton of gratitude to those guys, because they really forged the path for us.
Absolutely. And also you have to also consider that back then, and I remember the early days as well. I mean, Hex is still censored, it's still hated, it's still being accused as a scam and so on. But compared to back then, it's nothing really. Like it was 10 times worse, the accusations. Because I often use, I don't know if you're, Matt, if you're familiar with Ken Bozak.
No, I'm not.
He's like a, you could say, crypto streamer, YouTuber. I think he's quite agnostic, you could say. Maybe he's a little bit leans towards Bitcoin, but he accused back then. He's a typical. He's a symbol for me how Hex evolved, because when back then he accused Hex being a scam, but later on he actually apologized publicly. And the Hex community gifted him like 1 million Hex, and he staked for 15 years. And this is for me like very symbolic that back then even a nice figure, nice personality like Ken Bozak, and he was also a guest at Joe Hexotic's stream, was accusing Hex as a scam, and then he turned. And so this also highlights how important, how crucial the role of Hexo RG3 back then was. It was way harder to make the streams than compared to even today. So really appreciate these two.
Yeah, it's redemption, right? It's nice when you see people evolve, right? I mean, everyone does. No one ever stays in the same spot. And it's really healthy to see people come along. And, Richard's proven himself and has built a better product, and now is building the ecosystem. And, we all get to benefit. And that's the thing that I think that is so amazing about this time that we live in, is that, there's never been a time before where we could all literally individually win and as a group win together. And it really takes a selfless and very smart person like Richard to see how important helping other people win is to his own progress. And so, it's incredible.
Absolutely,
Matt. We usually structure our talks loosely around past, present, future. And I want to start off with one thing you said on your streams, like people from Michigan, they show their hand and locate on their hand where they're from in Michigan. And I really love that. I never been to Michigan, but, I would love to hear more about what is this state? Why is this state special for you? What does it stand for? I loosely know it because of the car industry. I would consider myself a car guy. So I know in Detroit that it used to be very big, or still is big.
Yep.
Can you please elaborate a bit more about Michigan? What does it mean for you?
Sure. Well, Michigan is the Great Lakes state, right? I mean, fresh water wrapped around a peninsula. And of course, Michigan is shaped like a mitten. And so people use their hand to kind of tell you where they're from. And there's, the Upper Peninsula and the Lower Peninsula. And it's a special place. It's a beautiful place. And I think a lot of people don't know the beauty of Michigan. But I grew up in Michigan. I grew up in southeastern Michigan. My dad was in the automotive industry as a factory worker. My mom stayed at home. And, we were poor. We didn't have much. And I was raised in the late 70s and 80s by baby boomers who are hippies, right? And so I had a pretty interesting experience with my dad being in a band, and a lot of music and a lot of noise and a lot of hippies all over the place. And it was really interesting as a kid growing up in kind of a blue collar, Midwestern, sensible. And that's what people describe folks from the Midwest are some real kind people, caring people will help you out, kind of shirt off their back kind of people, and they're hardworking. And I think that's a reflection of the automotive industry, just a lot of factory workers. But it's also, the home of Motown, right? So great music, some great musicians come out of that area. But it was a great place to grow up. Very stable, upbringing, but it was tough. And I think that, a lot of entrepreneurs, and that's what I've done in my life, have grown up in a situation that's a bit of a struggle, and they're like, I got to do something differently. And so I think that drives a lot of entrepreneurial people into looking for ways to get out, right? To make a difference and to create value. And so that's what I did.
And you mentioned your dad working in one of those factories. Was he influenced by the decline of the automotive industry? Because that's what I often hear about Detroit, how the inner city got run down and when the companies moved away, or
Yep.
that's my European perspective.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I think that, you saw in the 80s and 90s, you saw Japanese automotive companies really putting pressure on because they were creating good products and, quality. And you think about, the automotive industry in the early days, it's like any cycle. And we're seeing this across the world now, is that you have success and you get comfortable, and then workers are like, hey, you got to pay me more. And then, pensions, and there's all these liabilities that are on these organizations, and somebody comes along and innovates and does something cheaper, faster, and better. And it's the exact same story with what Richard Hart is doing, is that, things in Ethereum have gotten bloated. It's the same exact thing, but that's the cycle of life and moving forward and development and growth, is that there becomes this period of time where you do succeed and you get comfortable, and somebody comes along and innovates. And we've had challenges politically in especially in the Detroit area over the years, but I live in Texas now. I've been here for the last 15 years, and so it's or really 20 years. But I will say, as my dad being in the automotive industry, he was in there during the heyday. But that's the nature of technology and innovation, and you have to adapt. And so it's
it's a very American standpoint you have, like,
yeah,
but very positive. The open free market decides, and the better products will succeed. And it's just that a lot of families, stories behind that are involved.
Oh yeah. It's it's happened with so many industries before, and that's why right now is such a revolution, because we're talking about something so fundamental as money.
Yeah.
And are you still visiting Detroit?
I haven't been there in a while because of the health issues in the world, but I've been back in the last couple of years, but not a lot, as much as we'd like to visit family. But my wife's got a big family down here in Central Texas, and so we have had a great Christmas and big family stuff. But I don't get back there, and I try to avoid it in the wintertime anyway. It's not fun.
I see. So that answers my question. You moved to Texas because of your wife?
Well, actually, no. So during the .com era, I had worked. I'd actually worked at my university, and I'd worked for the headquarters of my fraternity after college. And the .com era started booming, and I got sucked into a .com business in Dallas. And so I got recruited to come and sell for a company out of Dallas. And that's really where it started. So it was the .com era, and really I came late to the game, and right after I came in June, and basically everything imploded in July. And so, we stuck around doing that business for a year, and then I started my own company.
Okay, I see.
And regarding Detroit, because usually when we here in Europe at least hear something or watch something about Detroit, it's or it used to be because of the decline of the automotive industry. But how is it now? Is it kind of thriving again? Is there another industry upcoming? Because it's quite a well-known city, right?
Oh yeah,
how is it at the moment?
Yeah, I think that there was it definitely bottomed out, and I think that there were times when they bulldozed buildings and actually planted farmland, if you will, at least the plots of land that had crops on them in downtown Detroit. But there was a lot more economic investment. They brought in casino gaming on the water there. They built a new stadium for the Detroit Lions. There's been a lot more investment in the downtown area. And so it certainly is coming back as far as the community is concerned. But yeah, I mean, it used to be known that, Detroit's where you're, killed and eaten. And it was a bad place for crime and all that. But, it looks like, Chicago and Baltimore have taken over the top spots. But, it's always been a challenging place. And I think a lot of the, political and, issues, but also economic decline drives a lot of that. So you're right. But yeah, I think that, with technology innovation and all that, they realize they don't have to build cars in Detroit area. You can build them anywhere. And because of the, the global system of, the supply chain and everything, and with groups like Tesla and, there's a lot more competition now. So Detroit's, had to diversify, but yeah, it's a lot better than it used to be when especially in the 80s.
And isn't like in the inner city, like with the teams, the sport teams, everything owned by one family or two families?
Yeah, well, you think about Ford Motor Company, and you look at Ford Field, and between the automotive companies, and that pretty much runs a lot of things in the Detroit area. And so yeah, it's like anything, like any city, there's a there's a hierarchy, and there's key families and those type of things in every town. And I consider Chicago one of the worst places to be able to get in and to be successful. But Detroit has some of that as well, and I haven't been there for 20 years, so I see things through a different lens because I've been here in Texas, where opportunity is just thriving.
Yeah. Actually, there's a channel called Arte, which is a German-French video broadcasting company, and they made a documentary about Detroit. Is it coming back? And like showing how the inner city gets refurbished and stuff like that. And there could be cycles, because Detroit run down, cheap rents, and then people coming back in, enough space to open up shops. So maybe there's a new chances for Detroit,
Oh yeah, and I think it's already begun. Yeah, there's a lot of investment that's come back in. It just changes, right? I mean, as one thing declines, something else comes in. There's opportunity there because there's people, there's workers, there's well-educated folks that have capabilities. And so yeah, that's the neat thing about these cycles, is they're cycles. They come and they go.
Yeah.
And you live long enough and you realize that they repeat themselves. And that's actually one of the greatest benefits of how you win in this world, is pay attention to the cycles.
Okay. And one last question before we leave Michigan. Who would you say is the most famous person from Michigan?
Wow. Well, Ted Nugent is one of them. But probably, for younger people, it's probably Eminem. But you look at all of the Motown folks, as far as music is concerned. I mean, some of the greats, come from Michigan. But yeah, there's a lot of them. I would say though that Terrible Ted Nugent's probably one of the most well-known Michiganders. Tim the Tool Man, also, and yeah, there's a whole slew of them from Michigan, but Eminem is probably the most well-known worldwide.
Nice. Yeah, I know Tim the Tool Man. and what about Henry Ford? He was from Michigan?
Oh yeah. Well, you figure, that you go way back when you talk about Henry Ford, but yeah, that's the birth of really the systematized automotive industry. And yeah, you can have a car as long as it's black.
Hey, Misha.
Is that a saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So when Henry Ford started making his Model Ts, they only made them in black. And he said, you can have a car, but only if you get it in black. And so every
Okay.
single
I
one of
didn't
them
know
was
that.
colored that way because it was cheaper. And that's the thing that was really the innovation. A lot of people think that Henry Ford invented the automobile, which is just not the case. He was the one that systematized it and made it, cost effective for the everyman to
The
drive.
assembly line,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Taylorism.
Yep.
Nice. Okay.
Misha, talking
going
about
back to
Tim the
Texas.
Toolman, it was quite popular in Germany as well, right? The series.
Yeah, I remember it a little bit from my childhood. How about you? I think Super RTL, was that the channel they played it? But really nice. A bit like Bob Ross, like a positive person, positive topics, building, product development. I think that's hands-on,
Absolutely.
good stuff. All right, Matt. We're getting a little too much
Absolutely.
about the States and Michigan.
Yeah.
I know you went in Texas also into the, correct me if I'm wrong, nonprofit business.
Yes. Yep. So in 2001, right before the towers fell in the World Trade Center, I started a business that was about helping nonprofit organizations use internet technology for fundraising. And those were back in the days when people, they didn't have email addresses yet, and they were, wondering if the internet was actually going to, survive, kind of like they're talking about crypto now. And so I went through that whole cycle of helping nonprofit groups, which are really, they're late adopters in the cycle of adoption of technology. And so I was bringing basically the things that organizations like businesses were using. I brought those technologies into the nonprofit space and really provided them with the ability to tell the stories of impact to their donors. And I came right at the right time when the internet was just, I don't know if you remember back in the day, but before video was ever on the internet, you could use animation software from Macromedia, which was called Flash at the time. And this is before it was bought by Adobe. And so we started making these narrative stories and telling the stories of the impact of these nonprofit groups. Because in the past, you could only tell a story in a letter or make a phone call. And so with the internet brought this ability to tell stories. And so we became storytellers. We kind of made the movies, if you will, for nonprofit organizations. And that led to just a massive growth in our business. And so we were pioneers in that internet fundraising world of, providing services to organizations to tell the stories of impact on people in nonprofits. And so my whole life's work now has been focused around how do you motivate and encourage people to be generous with, the resources that they have.
Wow, you have an amazing background for our community, for our Hex community.
Oh yeah.
Wow. And did you make
And is it the same business you started?
Yeah, so I started a business in 2001, and I ran that as CEO for 10 years. And we bought a bunch of companies and put together a full service fundraising agency. And then I left that company and I came down to Texas. And that's, I built that business. Then I came down to Central Texas, but I was in Dallas for about 10 to 12 years. And that's where I met my wife, and we had kids. And then, I sold and came down here, but that business still operates in Dallas. But yeah, I moved on to other things, and then, continued to serve nonprofit organizations and help more from a consulting perspective. And then that's when I got introduced into crypto. And so that's where it basically connects with everything that's going on today.
When was that?
So you
the introduction to crypto?
So my brothers, this is kind of my crypto story. So my brothers were very involved in technology in the early days. So my oldest brother worked at Apple in the very, very early days of Apple out in California. And he was the kind of guy that, was building computers out of the computer magazines, and, they were building programs and writing stuff in BASIC, and, getting into billboards and all this stuff. And I was a young kid at the time, and I didn't really, I wasn't into the coding and that type of stuff, but my brothers were. And so my middle brother works with Microsoft now, and so I was just very attuned to what was happening in the world, right? And so it was one of those kind of introductions to technology that came through my brothers. And so Bitcoin came out, and my brothers knew about Bitcoin at the very beginning. My brother was trying to do mining on very, very bad hardware.
Okay.
And we even considered doing something in 2015. We actually considered, when Bitcoin was, I think, at $400, we were going to actually start mining and getting some hardware and stuff. And we made the decision
Nice
that,
price.
well, Bitcoin would have to go to $800 to double our money. And so we literally didn't do it. And so, that was kind of the, we were aware of it while it was happening, but just never took advantage of it because we just didn't see the future.
So you consider to enter the market by mining Bitcoin, not by purchasing it in the first place.
Yeah. That's because my brothers were involved in, they were interested in the technology side of things. And at the time, there really wasn't much value. And it wasn't, wasn't being used for much. So that was the introduction. But, like I said, we didn't really do much with it until after the bull market.
Okay, that's when you said, okay, now I'm going serious in.
Well, serious in is a great question. So I had been into some altcoins and stuff, and it was just minor. I was just fiddling around. But it was 2 a.m. One night I couldn't sleep, and I was watching cable television, and an ad came on for Hex. And it was talking about, had people with yachts, and you're going to be rich and be a billionaire and all this stuff. And it was so funny because I was watching this, and I thought it was a network marketing, an MLM thing. And so I pulled it up on my phone, and it was crypto. And I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. So I started paying attention. Then I found Hexo and started watching Hexo. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get into this. This thing's got this big payday thing coming. And I think it was probably 10 days before big payday. And so I threw some money into it and thought, take a flyer on this and see how it goes. But I was not in, that's how I was introduced to Hex, was a TV ad at 2 a.m. And
Wow.
It's funny how I got involved.
That's pretty lucky, pretty nice to see that advertisement. And I also want to say props to your brothers. Pretty nice to have such tech-savvy brothers that introduced you this early to Bitcoin. Wow. So you got in and watching Hexo. I'm already assuming you also passed the EQ test, so to speak. Did Hexo and Richard Hart and the contents resonate with you?
What was interesting about it is, just because I knew there was opportunity to get into something early, and I was interested in the whole big payday thing, but this was not, to say it was a strategic investment is just not true. It was more of just, hey, might as well jump into something that looks interesting. And so, to be honest with you, my first impression of Richard and all the, because I watched all those scammer videos and I was trying to determine, is this legitimate or not? And, I just figured, I'm not going to put anything in that I'm not willing to literally just absolutely burn up, just lose completely. Yeah. And so my attitude was, so what? This is fun. It's entertaining, be a part of it. And then I started getting into the community and seeing the people. And then I kind of got past the Richard Hart thing, because on one hand, I was kind of, it was so harsh, when I first came to it, it was real harsh, and I'm fine with that. But I started listening. I'm like, hold on a second. When Richard's not having to defend himself, this guy's really smart. And I started understanding what Hex actually does, and understanding T-shares, and understanding all of this, really smart dynamics. And I really like the idea of true decentralized finance. And so, Richard just grew on me and grew on me. And of course, Hexo, to me, I gave him a lot of credit in the interview, because he's such a kind and jovial person that he really set the tone for what is it to be a Hexican. You don't have to be as smart as Richard Hart to be a Hexican. You just have to be kind and helpful and encouraging.
Nice.
And I saw that, and to me, that really resonated with me, because they're just regular people. And what I love about it is it really goes back to my blue collar roots in Michigan. Is these are regular people in the military, people, hardworking people. And I just love it when hardworking people win. And I'm not a guy who's like a banker. I'm not a Wall Street guy. I'm a blue collar guy, and I love it when
Nice.
underdogs win. And I feel like Richard has really represented the everyman. And I think the whole gatekeeping, all the stuff that's happened in the gatekeeping, and is actually to our benefit, because it's kept the people out that really could have done a lot of harm to Hex, and it really has galvanized the community in a way that has a very solid foundation. And I'm very proud of that. I think it's so cool, and I'm just so glad to be a part of it. And and overwhelmed joyfully that that Richard's continuing to build products when he doesn't have to. He doesn't need the money. He's
Yeah.
doing it to really truly make a difference in the world. And I want to build on top of that. I want to encourage
Nice.
what he started.
Yeah, and
And
you said it's for everyone, like a blue collar worker, everyone can participate. No gatekeeping. It's not just Wall Street, it's for everyone.
Right.
That's beautiful.
absolutely. And I also have the feeling that even though the community is growing very fast, we have still this positivity. We kept it, especially through people or personalities like Hexo. I know also RG3 did a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It contributed a lot to that. So I think this is also what distinguishes also the Hex community from other communities. This kindness, and also when we went to the London 2 years anniversary. Before I used to I sometimes participated like VC meetings from my past, and sometimes I don't want to like generalize, but sometimes when you try to speak to some persons, they refuse, or they already in the middle of a conversation with some other guys, and they refuse you to join. And I think this is not what an event is for. And this literally never happened during the whole night in London. Basically, every time you joined a group of people, they opened up immediately, introduced you to everybody. You can start a conversation with any person. So you could really feel this atmosphere in London, even though when I asked my friends how they perceived the live stream, it looked a little bit, you could say, scammy, maybe because of the It's Raining Hex song or something. But the atmosphere inside actually was amazing, really. So
Genuine and really good, really good.
yeah.
Well, and that's
Everybody.
and that's to credit Richard, right? And you think about, the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. And I look at Richard, the way that interview he did with Hexo, and that was the first time they really had met in person, was during that London event. And the way he treated Hexo, it just made me such a fan of Richard's. And to see him on the meetups and how he cared for people, I mean, he's a genuine person, and what you see is what you get. And I think that's why it attracts so many, sensible blue collar people, is because they see that there's no other way to do it than to be straightforward and genuine and kind. And, I admire Richard because he's dealt with so many attacks, and he's, come through it. And I'm just, it's awesome that people are really inclusive. That's what I love about winning together, is that it does you no good to not include people, because the more people that are in, the better it does.
And Matt, I watched the other day, I watched your stream, and you mentioned that Richard Hart replied to you that he will join your stream. Yeah, when will it happen?
Yeah, well,
do you have some nuggets for us?
Well, I wish I did, as far as the specifics, but it's how it is when the king winks at you, you're excited, and I think that, we all kind of hang on his every word. And so my first introduction to Richard directly was because of Moonwhale. Moonwhale had purchased the pulseswap.com address from those squatters, and I just helped him tell his story, and that's how I got connected to Richard, because I helped connect those two. But then I asked him, I said, I'd love to know more about your heart, and I'd love to know more about why you're interested in health and longevity and all of these things. And I want to tell that story, because a lot of the people that I talk to, would jokingly say we don't swear, and, grandma can watch the stream, is that there are a lot of people out there that see the benefit of money differently, right? A 24-year-old guy sees the benefit of money, maybe a Lambo or watches or some sort of luxury items. And when you get older, and there's a woman in the stream yesterday who was 73, I think. That's a grandmother who's got grandkids and concerned about their lives. And we need to start talking to all of these different generational people from their perspective, right? And I think that we've really spoken very highly to a younger audience. And so I wanted to come in and say, let's talk to people who are mature, because honestly, where the money is, older people have the money.
Oh yeah.
And at the end of the day, I see what Kinetics is doing, and the Discourse Syndicate guys, and the trust that they're talking about. And I really see how they're going to really bring in some of this generational wealth, because there's such a transfer of wealth going to happen from the baby boomers that we need to be appealing to them and be seen as a vehicle or a financial instrument that they can utilize too. It's not just for wild and crazy pirates. It's also for people who really want to make their lives more stable and to win. And so we just need to broaden the tent.
Absolutely. And I think, as Misha mentioned before, this is a big gap that you can fill also, because we have a lot of, you could say, younger streamers, younger in quotes, right? What does it exactly mean? But you could say more this younger generation, which the style is just different, right? And when I see your streams, I really appreciate more this calmness, maybe the seniority, and this appeals to a different target group than we could reach, for example. So I think you do a great job here as well with your stream.
I appreciate it. And I think that everyone has an audience, right? And everyone has a perspective. And I always encourage anybody who wants to stream or wants to create content that they should, because it's going to reach a different group. And there's a lot of different varieties of messages and messengers. And at the end of the day, I was inspired by CC, the CEO of Liquid Loans, and the way he talked about Hex. And I'm like, I want to talk about it like that. And this is what I do authentically. If you're out there and you're considering do what you do authentically, and there will be an audience for it. But the cool thing about this is, everybody sees, mad gains in their future, right? If you're up and to the right and making a bunch of money. But I always remind people that money is a tool, and it's a tool that can be used for good or for evil, right? And having money is good if you use that tool wisely. But, somebody said one time that having money just amplifies what you are about. If you're a good person and you're a kind person and you're a mature person, money amplifies that. But if you are someone who has got some challenges, you add money to the mix and you can get into some pretty big trouble. And so it's we see this future where so many people are going to have an abundance in this new financial system. I want people to be thinking in terms of, it's better to give than receive. I mean, you need to take care of yourself and your family and all that. But at the end of the day, what's your legacy going to be? What are you put on earth to do?
Yeah. And it's fun to help people winning. So,
Nothing like it.
And I forgot what I wanted to say.
I have so many points to say. Like, I need to take notes here. Yeah, I wanted to touch upon like Richard Hart. I asked you, Matt, because I remember when back then in 2017, Richard was already quite popular back in the time when he was, you could say, a Bitcoin maximalist. He had a lot of followers back then already. And he still responded. Even back then, he responded to me from time to time. And I was just like you could say like a nobody in the community. I wasn't like a public figure or something. And I remember one thing that I asked him. I usually like to ask people what books they recommend. And I actually asked Richard Hart on Twitter, and I didn't know Sci-Vive. Back then it was newly out, you could say, the draft at least. And he responded actually with the Sci-Vive, with the PDF. So I was just blown away because it included a lot of like nuggets with very good knowledge, what I was looking for. So even though he is a founder of a multi-billion-dollar cryptocurrency, he still takes time for the community, and massively. I think no founder would do that. So even like he responds privately, he does a lot of live streams, organizes events. So kudos to that. That's really impressive, and it really shows that he cares.
Yeah, it really does. And Cabana Crypto, he told a story on our last interview very similar to that, and I'm hearing these stories over and over again that, Richard doing things for people, not for his own benefit, but to encourage them. He sends you Sci-Vive. With Cabana, he was on, he was in one of those Sci-Vive chats, and Richard actually, showed concern for his family health situation. And that just shows the humanity. And that to me is, it's one of the greatest things about this community is that when you have a leader who goes, listen, I got to stop playing video games. I got to stop drinking or smoking. I got to take care of my body. I've got to, I got to, focus on being healthy so that we can enjoy these things, because there's nothing worse than, gaining the whole world and losing your soul. And so I just really appreciate that, because it's much more holistic. And, you can only drive so many sports cars at a time.
Yeah, and it's very positive win-win-win situation, and not binary win-lose. Like
Right.
quit poker, you can only win by someone else losing, and
Right.
even then it's a net negative game because the casino takes a rake in. So in total, only a few are winning, and they win a little and others lose a lot. And this holistic, we all win. Yeah, it's just amazing and healthy. And coming earlier to the thing you said with tools,
Yep.
when numbers go up, you suddenly have the tools. And if you think of yourself as a good person, it's kind of, I see it as my responsibility, or as sensible for me, that numbers go up, because then I have the tools and then I can give to longevity, etc.
Yep.
So, but we also have to talk about like what to do with it, what's sensible, how and where to use tools.
Yep.
So I love that we are in a conversation about that.
Yeah.
Even though I don't have it figured out yet completely.
Yeah, and I think
neither.
actually I can provide a little bit of guidance there. Is that, when you think about what you care about, and I think that that's one of the neat things about the community, is that we are, we're a tapestry of different people with different concerns and hearts. And I see you put David Lee's comment up there. David Lee's a great example of that. David Lee's, his wife's struggling with colon cancer. And, here's a guy who comes into the community and is transparent about how he's, what he's struggling with. And people come around him and encourage him. And, and he experiences a miraculous event, and it strengthens his faith. And to me, when you think about giving back, and you think about legacy, especially when you have resources, look in any community and look at the big buildings and look at the infrastructure, museums. And, I go back to Andrew Carnegie, who built basically America and was a steel magnate. And, he gave back to all of these communities through education, through Carnegie libraries and a lot of other philanthropic things. But when you think about this, imagine you live in a small town somewhere, and you end up becoming a cryptocurrency, mega millionaire or billionaire. What are you looking around? You're saying, well, what do we need in our community? What do we need for the children of the future? What do we need for, and a lot of the things that I consider to be the margin of excellence, right? You've got the basics, right? In most cities, you've got the basics, but what are the opportunities and the margins for the next kid to be the next, Steve Jobs? What are you creating, and what are you contributing to? And I think the key is to look into your own heart, right? You have to understand, what is it that you care about? What has impacted your family? In the medical world, they call it grateful patience, right? When you've gone to a medical facility and people have cared for you or a loved one, and they've helped you, people give back to that because they want others to have the same kind of care. It might be, a technology like proton therapy. It might be some sort of immunotherapies. I see all the things that are happening in technology and longevity and all that. And so you have to reflect on your own passion, and then say, all right, how do I make the best possible investment to have the best possible return? And I would say, not just for your own acclaim. It's not for your recognition. It's really, what does the most good that has the most lasting impact? And, you have to get outside of yourself, because there are people who are just giving to get their name on a building. And, I think the key to this is, and this is the vision that I have, because my calling in life is to unlock global generosity. And you do that by giving. And so encouraging people to give wherever they have the passion. The rising tide lifts all boats is certainly true, but imagine each of you guys have the resources, and I do, and David Lee does, and all these other people have the resources. That's like, imagine concentric circles going out from each of these points of investment. At some point in time in the world, they overlap, and that makes communities better and helps. And I'm not a big fan of handouts, but we need to be building the systems of sustainability for the future that help people serve themselves, help people earn, help people have a better quality of life. We need to care for people who are struggling and who the old financial system has extracted value and taken advantage of. And that's, to me, the hope. The real hope of this is that good people are going to have resources to help make the world a better place, one community at a time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautifully said, Matt. I wanted to get back to how you found out about Hex. So you said it's actually quite surprising. So you said you heard about it for the first time on TV, yeah? It was an ad.
Yeah, it was an ad on TV. So this is guerrilla marketing at its best. And if you think about it, someone in the community made this ad, and somebody paid for it to be on late night TV, and that brought me in.
That's really funny, because usually you knew Richard Hart from 2017, or a friend onboarded you. But I'm really surprised that you found out about it through an TV ad. Was it like a popular TV or channel? Or
no, I only saw it one time, but I was really curious because it was so different, right? You usually see ads for, a car dealer or insurance or something, and this was out of the ordinary, right? It was like, and it was such bizarre, amazing claims like, you're going to be rich and, be a billionaire kind of stuff. And it was so outlandish that I thought, oh, this has got to be some sort of, network marketing thing. And I think that a lot of the reasons that people called scam on Hex was the marketing wasn't, it wasn't from a corporate headquarters. It was from a bunch of different people, and they, used crazy claims. Well, it ended up being true, right? People didn't realize this, but all those claims ended up being true. But I think at the time it was like too good to be true. We were in that down market, bear market from Bitcoin. And it was hard for people to relate to and understand. But now in retrospect, we go, wow, Richard Hart was right. He saw the future.
Yeah, especially like people in crypto and cryptocurrency, they tend to use the word scam very loosely. As long as you don't own it, you accuse another cryptocurrency being a scam. What does it exactly mean? I saw the other day a tweet from I don't want to mention his name, from a Bitcoin maximalist, that Cardano is a scam, Hex is a scam, XRP is a scam, and so on, without any evidence. And I mean, I think the community should really be careful using such accusations without any proof, especially in regards to Hex, which is an immutable smart contract that can't be changed. Take it or leave it. So right. What's scammy about that?
Yeah, well, and I think that's, you take the good with the bad, right? You end up having to do as much as you can, and that's why, you spray and pray, right? You're like, well, we'll just get this stuff out there and hopefully it's going to stick. And I think as the chart has gone up into the right, and we've seen Hex perform, and we see it's immutable, and we see, this time deposit, I think people are reasonable people are looking at it and saying, all right, it's a tool like any other contract. And because of the maturing of smart contracts and the evolution of DeFi, we're now at a point where that conversation's over. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. And now you add on top of it this whole ecosystem with Pulse Chain and PulseX and, potentially a wallet with MetaMask and, all the things that Richard's planning with, fiat on-ramps or centralized exchanges, is this idea of creating a smooth path for people to onboard into this ecosystem. Because, you got to understand that we're at the very beginning of the acquisition phase of resources. There's going to be a point where there's millions of people have significant resources that aren't connected to governments. And you're going to see a lot of impact from that. and a lot of upheaval too. I mean, it's going to create, on both ends, you're going to have really, really happy people that, have come into great resources. And then on the other side, you're going to have a lot of, current power brokers who are upset. And so it's a revolution. It really, truly is a revolution. And I think that a lot of the people in the traditional finance world love to get the gains from it, but they're essentially taking their own poison pill. They're truly, ultimately slitting their own throats, but it's inevitable now. And so that to me is what's so exciting, is that this is bigger than just, hey, let's make some money. This is a complete shift in the power systems of the world. It's shaking. And that to me is so exciting for freedom and personal sovereignty. And, it'll get worse before it gets better, but there's a lot of hope in the future.
But I see then also in the context of giving back, I see need for education and help and support, as well as the older generations that get into this. And this might be new and a bit, you be apprehensive at first, but also the younger generation, young people. Young people have problems to buy a house because house prices are exploding. They don't have the chance like maybe their parents had to get a house. So you have this big opportunity, but also you need to take action. You need to be responsible. It's very American, like you take responsibility for yourself. You do the action, you communicate with the computer protocols and take your finance into hands. But, the other sword is some people might not have the cognitive ability or need help.
Or are ignorant. Unfortunately, we have to also mention that, Misha, right? Because I also, when I onboard the Hex people to Hex, I see the two sides. Some people are very open-minded and get into it very fast, and some people just don't care at all. It doesn't matter how hard you try; they just don't care about opportunities, and it's sometimes really hard. It reminds me of Matrix sometimes, that some people are not ready yet, unfortunately, and you could say save all. I don't know if you guys made the same experience while trying to
do you
onboard.
see like a common thing among those people that are like that?
I think it's natural. There are different types of people at different points in their lives, right? And I think back to any of these past opportunity cycles. So you could look back to the industrial age, right? If you didn't know someone and you didn't have access to oil or to steel or to whatever, I mean, it was the resource of the day, right? Look at mining. The west coast of the United States, 1849, we've got the gold rush. And if you think about it, cities popped up where there was, a vein of gold or a mine of silver. And so people gravitated to the places where there was value. And I think that things have changed now because value is not limited by boundaries or geography or geology. And so now we find ourselves in a situation where anyone can access these, contracts, and they can participate. But what I love about it, and to me, what makes it so promising, is the fact that, a lot of social engineers, government people that have this idea of utopia, is they think that they can turn the handles and dials of the social experiment and they can get it just right. And at the end of the day, what they don't realize is that, in my opinion, the human heart is corrupt, right? And that any time that we get power and money, we try to create systems that are in our own favor. And so when you have the smart contract that literally is immutable and it's decentralized and no one owns it, anyone has this equal opportunity to take advantage of it. But there are people who have to be educated. There are people that are open to it and are not. Some people are going to miss the opportunity. And so we do everything we can to encourage, but it's an enlightened thing. You have to become aware. And I think that that's where community is so powerful. Is I've had to talk to the people I care about in my life and say, because I care about you, you need to do this. And I'm gonna leverage my relational capital that I have with you to say, hey, trust me. You don't have to understand everything. I just want to encourage you,
exactly,
and get people in it, because I feel like it's funny. It's like a gateway drug, right? You get them to try it once. You say, hey, my conversation with a lot of people is if you lost $100, out of your wallet and it fell on the ground and you drove away, would you cry and lose sleep over it? No, you wouldn't. And so, getting involved in this stuff and learning how it's better to do it with, some skin in the game. And then once you start
absolutely.
learning, you get excited about it and you understand it better and you start
Yeah.
consuming content. So it's we've got to continue to introduce people, but I'm more interested in the big macro ideas of freedom, right? This idea that, in the past, think about this, we deal with things like slavery, right? And of course, it's been out throughout history, and there have been people who have been affected by systems, right? Whether it be Native Americans, whether it be the slave trade, whether it be just people that don't have money in poorer countries. The African countries are not getting vaccines. Why? Because they don't have the money. And it's really sad that these old systems are one that is basically, there's a inequity that's there. What I love about the blockchain is it says, no, we're not handing something out to you. This isn't free money. This is equal opportunity. It's not equal outcome. The outcome is up to you. If you want to take advantage of this, you can engage with it just like anyone. So the banker and the billionaire is equal with, the pauper. And so I think the key is education. And if you want to, get out, like K4K said the other day, he said, what if you were born in Venezuela and you had a corrupt government and your fiat currency wasn't worth anything, but you had an internet connection? That gives you the opportunity to save yourself. And, I don't think a lot of people realize what Richard Hart has done is created products that potentially enable you to save yourself. He's not going to save you. You have to engage with it. So you have an opportunity, and every single person on the planet with an internet connection's got that opportunity. And like, well, I don't have any money. You can find money. There are ways to generate money so that you can be a part of this revolution. But I love it because it's so pure, because it's not controlled by any powers that are, corruptible, if you will.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you said, Matt, educating people about it is key here. And I have to think about another Hexican with the name Nigerian Hexican. He's a typical Hex Grassroots. He was a guest in one of our first streams. He's from Nigeria, and they basically have they have very little opportunities to get in, even if they wanted to. So he acts as an agent, and he bought some amount of hacks, and he sells them with a very little margin to neighbors and to everybody he introduced, because it wouldn't be even possible for them to get it. So I think this is also very important, especially to share the knowledge and the education, and even provide services like a brokerage in countries or in areas where there's even way bigger poverty than in the Western world, like Nigerian Hexican does. So shout out to him here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about that as creating opportunities for people to basically have their own business. And I'm not a big fan of middlemen, but at the end of the day, people need help, and so providing a valuable service makes a ton of sense.
Definitely. I wanted to get back to the point when you found out about HexMat. Did you ape in immediately, or did it take some time until you were convinced? How was it for yourself? And also, I wanted to ask: did you know somebody who guided you, or were you on your own back then?
No, I was on my own. I mean, Hexo is the guy. I paid attention to the stream, and I put some money in. Here's the funny story. So I put a little bit of money in before big payday. And you remember, I mean, that was way sub 1 penny. And, I just sat around, right? I staked it and sat around. And of course, I'd go to dinner every night and I'd say, hey, that crypto I'm in called Hex? And my wife would be like, yeah. I said, here's the number. And she's like, what? And I said, yeah, it's crazy. And of course, for pretty much months and months, she goes, that's not real. That's not real money. And I said, all right, one day I'm going to show you it's real money. And so my daughter turned 16 and she got a car. And what's so neat about that is it became very real to my wife. And so it really was at that point that, it made sense to her. But really the pulse chain, I missed the big opportunity. And so for me, when I saw, pulse chain sacrifice was really my big opportunity, and that's why I started the channel. Right, I saw this opportunity to message around pulse chain. I thought, wow, this is really big opportunity, and I wanted to pump my own bags, and I wanted to bring more people into this, because to me, You know, PLS is really special because it's the ether, right? It is the coin that does the work as far as gas fees are concerned. And
Mhm.
to me, that is a utility on a blockchain. And so to me, really, really excited about PLS. And then of course, learning about the dynamics of Pulse X, I'm as excited or more excited about Pulse X. And so it's been it's almost overwhelming how exciting this time is. And I really feel blessed that I have the opportunity to take advantage of it. But I'm a conservative guy when it comes to investments. I don't bet the farm. I'm not going to risk my family's
Mhm.
stability. It has a necessary place in my strategy, but um, it's not everything. I think when you're, 30 years old or younger, you can take big risks. But when I'm going to be 50,
Mhm.
you got to be more cautious.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Matt, you mentioned that then you basically got more engaged with the community. Was that the point when you started streaming in general, or did you have experience streaming maybe from another crypto community or from another topic?
Yeah. So I studied theater in college, and so I've been communicating all my life. I've been in performance type of work, and then I led a company for 10 years, and we had over 200 employees, and had to, I've been communicating all my life, and so it
Wow.
was a very natural thing. And then I actually owned a streaming business for churches. I understood the technology. I'd done a lot of graphic design and a lot of video editing, and so I
Awesome.
understood the basics. We've made a lot of movies over the years for nonprofit organizations. And so it was a very natural thing to do. Um, and of course, my goal is really, I wanted to talk about the things that I've learned in my life that have been principles that have served me well, right? That have
Mhm.
helped me,
Universal ones.
yeah, keep me out of trouble, right? And so I'm just trying to
Nice.
pass along something, because you got people's attention when you're talking about money. But I really like the concept of stewardship, is to say, when you're on your deathbed, you're not grasping to Hex, you're
Mhm.
grasping to people.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, you can't take it with you. So understanding that you have a responsibility, with much power
Yeah.
becomes much responsibility. Well, think about this. If you find yourself, being kind of a working stiff, and then you end up with millions of dollars, there's a reason for that. To me, you're not here by accident. And so what role are you going to play in
Mm.
your community and your family and making the world a better place? And I hope that people would make good decisions, because these tools can also harm you, and you can make some decisions like, you know I see a lot of guys who get really good jobs and make a lot of money, and they get a lot of time and get people working for them, and then they go and play golf 5 days a week, and then after playing golf they have a couple drinks, and then they get into their fast car and run into a tree, and you
Yeah, I
go,
always have to think about
yeah,
Leo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street,
yes, yeah.
leaving his nice girlfriend and then basically just partying and yeah, destroying himself.
Yeah, yeah, so it
Absolutely,
can go both ways, and
absolutely.
and I think a lot of that's where faith comes in for me, is that there's a big part of me that, one of the things that people say is that if you are ruled from within, meaning inside of your heart, your faith is what drives you, and you have a conscience that guides you. It helps protect you from doing stupid things.
Yep.
And I think the more people can realize that, your philosophy in life, which is based a lot on how you were brought up, it's based a lot about what you believe in your faith, it drives your decision making. And having a family and all that stuff also adds to it. But I dream about the kind of things I can provide for my daughters, and I can provide for my wife, and all those things, and that's great. But
Mhm,
to me, the value of cryptocurrency is different for me than it is for somebody who's 24. And so
mhm.
that's a lesson I think we have to how we message to people, because they see benefits differently. And so we need to understand, this can benefit everyone, but they see it differently.
I also wanted to mention, Matt, that you must have a very great and supportive family because I have the feeling you pushing out like 2 videos every day, and it costs a lot of time. So you must be very fortunate here.
I am. I'm blessed. My wife is so supportive and so helpful, and so like she keeps everything together. But
Cool.
I do most of my work at my office, and I keep it within the guardrails of kind of normal work. And so when I'm at home, I'm on my phone too much. I have to admit, but I also family is everything.
And do you have a streaming studio at your home where the TV is with your logo? Is that at
Yes,
your
yeah.
home?
So I have an office. I actually office in a kind of a mansion style house, pretty big house that was built in 1895. And of course, here in the States, that's old, right?
It's
And
ancient in the
it's
States.
ancient in the States, but it's really cool. So there's a studio area I've built out in our office space that I work out of. But yeah, so and I'm only 10 minutes from the house, and so it's great.
Yeah,
It's
it
nice.
looks good also with the wall in the back and the TV.
Oh
I
yeah, I
love
appreciate that. Yeah, that's a mural that I did years ago, and that's actually from, you remember the Life magazines, the old Life magazines that so there was a Life magazine that was basically the 20th century in review, and has all these photos of these major events in 20th century history. And so I literally cut all those out and built this kind of mural. And so that's what you see behind me there. One day I'll have to walk through that on a stream.
Yeah, it's like a mosaic put together
Yeah.
of the pictures. Yeah, lovely,
Awesome,
lovely.
awesome.
Matt, one more question. You mentioned your upbringing. I saw and I really loved those biblical references. Do you went to a Jesuit school, or where did that came from?
Yeah, so actually it's a funny story. I grew up, my mom was a Christian, my dad was not. And I got introduced to church as a younger kid, and I, as a kind of a middle schooler, and I really rejected it. It was, there's all these promises of what, following Jesus would look like, and it just didn't pay off. I was like, no, this isn't real. And so I ended up really being anti-Christian for about 28 years of my life. And I consider myself a Paul character in the Bible. And I was really, to me, it was phony. It didn't have any power. It was weak. It was for weak people. And I thought, I'm a strong, smart person. I can make it on my own. And I got into really a traumatic situation. And I had a friend who invited me to go to church with him. And I figured, I might as well, I had nothing better to do. And I literally had a real lightning bolt experience. And it was a story of, it was the story of Jonah and the whale. And the pastor said, he said, there are storms in life. And he said, here's Jonah, right? He was, God told him to go one way, and he said, nope, I'm going the other way. And he had disobeyed God to the point where the guys that he was on the boat with threw him overboard, because they're like, okay, your God's judging you. We're going to throw you overboard. And what was amazing about that story is this pastor looked out into the audience. I swear he looked right at me, and he said, are you harming innocent bystanders by your disobedience to God? And I literally, it like struck me like right in the heart. I was like, yep, that's exactly what I'm doing. And one of the things that's amazing is I had like an experience where there was a weight lifted off of me, and I was like, hold on a second. I've been criticizing this for 28 years of my life. I've been, against this, and you're saying this is real, and you're telling me that this has actual power and can impact my life. And so I'm the last guy ever to be a Christian, because I despised it. I despised Christians, right? They were phony to me. And it took the real power of God. And so when I think about, like, if anyone is a fan of C.S. Lewis is probably one of the greatest of the 20th century, speaking to the real practical nature of what faith really means. And so to me, I would have never believed unless I knew it had power and it was real. And so, that's something that's personal, and you have to experience it for yourself, and you have to be in need, because you can't get there if you think you can handle it and do everything on your own. And so that happened to me on September 10th of 2000. And it's been it's been such a journey since then. And so, what I look at it is, whether or not you agree with my worldview or my faith, at the end of the day, God showed his power to me, and I follow that, and my life's been a lot better since then. And I've known so many people that were addicted, and so many people have gone through so many difficult situations. And I'm really a big believer in redemption, and that to me, um, I've never had this kind of peace in my life before. And money doesn't bring it, fame doesn't bring it, accolades don't bring it. And that's the thing that I used to be somebody who couldn't sit still. I couldn't focus. And after September 10th of 2000, I was like, changed from the inside out. And so I'm not an evangelical guy. I'm not the guy that's trying to convince people to believe what I believe, but I know that the impact of that has saved me from so much trouble. And
So
I love those principles, and I want to help people understand that, there's real joy and peace, and there's a purpose to this whole life, and it's there for you to discover.
And back then, on the 10th of September, Matt, did I understand correctly that something physically happened to you, like an accident or something? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, no. It was I literally just was broken, right? I was just literally broken emotionally. And
Gotcha.
I felt it was like a weight. I'm not saying there was something actually physically lifted from me, but it was like that. It was I felt it. And that's something that I never experienced before.
Wow.
I thought it was, because to me it was hokey, right? It was just hokey stuff. It was just, it was kind of fantasy stuff that people were believing. And I think that that's what it takes for a lot of people, is to say, some people are like, yeah, I just grew up this way and this is what I believe. And it took for me, really God showing his physical power to me to say, hey, I'm real. And that, and that's something that I wish for everyone that they would experience, but you have to humble yourself. And if you don't humble yourself, I mean, a lot of people are just grabbing the bull by the horns. And I did that for 28 years of my life. And you get to a certain time in your life and you're like, I have no control. I've lost the ability to control this. I used to be strong and tough and everything, and now I'm not. I'm weak. And that's really, I think, where God does his greatest work, is he shows that, hey, you can trust me. And so that's my story, and that's motivated everything since 2000 for me. And it's been, it's not that it's all perfect. It's just that I have peace now. I can sit still. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing it.
Thank you very much. That's intense.
You bet. You bet. Hey, I would love to share with your audience about the Pulse Promise, if you're okay with that.
Yes,
of course.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that, because that to me is, I mentioned earlier that my calling is to unlock global generosity. And that comes from John 6 and the feeding of the 5,000. And if you know that story, you know that Jesus went out to teach, and all these people came out, and they said there was like 5,000 men. And with women and children, it's probably more like, 12 to 15,000 people. And the disciples sent to Jesus, they're like, hey, how are we going to feed these people? They couldn't even benefit from, feeding. One bite would cost, so much money. And a boy comes up and he says, you can have my, 5 loaves and 2 fish. And I don't know about you guys, but I've never eaten 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish before in my life. That's a lot of food. But it wasn't enough for, 12,000 people. And, you think about this idea in that giving, right? This boy gave the food that his family had brought, and they gave all of it up to Jesus to say, hey, you can multiply this. And one of the things that is part of that story is that people will debate whether that was, like literally Jesus was creating bread. He was like, boink, boink, new bread was being created from nothing. Or was it the fact that people that had brought their food out in the first century of Palestine, they went out to see this guy in the, outside of town. They didn't have a restaurant to go to. They didn't go to a convenience store, and they shared, and it unlocked the generosity of those people. And it says there were 12 basketfuls left over. And so we have an abundance, but we have a scarcity mentality. And I believe that the Pulse Promise is really just a group of people coming together and saying, you know what? Let's set aside in our own MetaMask wallets. This is not a blockchain project. This is a community project that just says, hey, if you want to make a difference in this world and you want to kind of commit ahead of time to to carving out some of your Pulse or your Pulse X sacrifice, and you want to, be in community with people or looking at ways to make a difference, let's get together in a Telegram. And so the Compassion Cartel was formed. We have over, I want to say 600 people in that group right now, and our goal is to have 1,000 by 2/22/22. And it's really just, it's an amazing place of people that are real positive and encouraging to one another. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to say, let's not expect somebody else to fix a problem. Let's fix it ourselves. And that to me is just, it's a blessing. So yeah, you can go to Pulse Promise and see the story, or you can join the Telegram group. We'd love to have as many folks as want to join.
I will definitely join. Thanks for sharing.
You bet. I will for sure. And the people in the Telegram group are the ones that take part in the Pulse Promise. Yeah.
So how that works is this website, thepulsepromise.com, once the Pulse chain goes live, people will be able to come and connect their wallet and basically say, hey, here's the wallet address where I've put this, $100 worth of Pulse sacrifice, which is 1 million Pulse points. And so it would be 1 million PLS. And they basically say, hey, here's where I put it. We don't publish any addresses. We don't publish anything. We basically keep track of that and then compare it to the price of Pulse. And so we want to have this site that has a ticker on it that says, hey, look at all what this community has done and what they've said they're willing to give away. We don't dictate. We don't tell you where to give it. This is not that kind of thing. It's really just to say, how do we inspire other people to give? And so I stepped out myself and said, I'm going to put $100 of my Pulse sacrifice to just carve it out on my own to say, I'm going to give this away, kind of a first fruits idea. And it's amazing. I can't believe how many people said this is exactly what I want to do. And people have connected over their passions. And, but I like it because I feel like crypto needs, it needs a heart. And we are the community of heart, and we've got Richard Hart. And it's like, let's lean into this and let's join forces in doing good.
Awesome. That's a very great idea. I will definitely join and contribute. Did you set it up, Matt, or were a couple of hexagons?
Yeah, we set it up here. We've got developers. I've developed software for a long time, and so we've got the people and the ability. But it's right now it's real simple. It's more just about community. But we're planning some other projects on the Pulse chain. I work with clients who are doing blockchain work, and so I'm going to bring those projects onto the Pulse chain as well as those get developed. But it's such an exciting time, guys.
Awesome.
Can you please explain one more time how exactly it works? It's an amount I choose, and do I send it or just keep it on my wallet?
You keep it on your wallet. This is not, you don't give it to anybody. This is just a personal commitment that I've made, and I'm just encouraging other people to do the same. And so really what I'm going to do is I just create another account in my MetaMask, and I'm going to put 1 million Pulse in there. That's it.
And this is basically what you're willing to donate, but the goal is to which address or to who the receiver will be is not defined yet, you could say.
No, it's not defined, and it's really more. It's really an act of faith, and just to say, one of the things I believe is I think there's a future where Pulse will be at $1, and a lot of people are blown away by that, right? And this idea that. Can you imagine you put in $100 and it became $1 million? And what if 1,000 people did that? That's $1 billion. Well, I did an interview at Balliet Brand, and he said that happened to hexagons. They put in $100 and it became $1 million. Well, that I don't know what timeline that's going to be on, but that's the idea of this future, that we're being blessed with a resource, and I want to be faithful to recognizing and giving that back and making a contribution to whatever I get led to do. But that's why it's not a blockchain project. This is not, trying to get anybody to give money to any specific spot. It's really just to get together and say, we can solve problems, because not every problem can be solved by money. And so community is really important. So it's very genuine. It's very pure. But it's really your choice. You're just saying, I want to be a part of a group of people who cares about making the world a better place. That's really it.
Yeah. And it's more like a faith, a promise for oneself that I will set it aside, and then I will use it for good. And I could basically use it here locally in my town for people.
Yeah, it's really just planning ahead. That's all it is. It's just planning ahead to say,
That's nice.
and I
Especially
think
if
that
many, if it's scalable, if many join it, and then everyone will do a little bit. You don't have to make big steps. It starts with a lot of small steps by many people.
Yeah, and I find that I think just natural psychology is if I've got money in my pocket, I spend it. But if I put it away somewhere, I don't. And so it's really that idea is to say, if I plan ahead for this, and what if it did become $1 million, right? What if Pulse did hit $1 at some point? And I'm not saying it's gonna, but let's say it did. Wow. I mean, a lot of people would say, I've never given away $1 million in my life. And what a powerful thing that is. And so it's really inspiration, right? And it's being purposeful and planning ahead.
Yeah, taking action.
Yeah,
I like that. And so earlier, did I hear you correctly when you said Pulse X is something that you are even more excited about?
strangely, yes. So if you watch K4K Crypto's video on PulseX, I'm going to boil it down for you. This is the reason I'm so excited. He said, look at how PulseX and what Richard has done. He's redefining what a DEX will do with this buy, back, and burn public function that you can call. And so he's used the concept of a public function like the good accounting function in Hex. And he said, all right, anyone can call this function. And what it does is it basically takes a portion of the fee from every single transaction on the DEX. And so the equivalent to this would be, let's say the New York Stock Exchange or any stock exchange or all of the stock exchanges. Every single trade that's ever made on any asset has a little fee. And that little fee goes to buy one stock, which let's say it's Apple, right? And K4K, this is K4K's analogy that I think is beautiful. He said, this is like those little pieces of fees from every single transaction buying a specific stock. In this case, he said Apple. He said, well, do you think that'd be a good buy? Do you think that pressure, that buy pressure would increase the price? And it made my head explode. I was like, oh my gosh. So Richard Hart has baked into this function that there's no admin. This is not a multi-sig wallet. You don't have to manually go in and burn. And it automatically does this. So it creates, based on the volume, this buy pressure. And to me, that's a tokenomics in the PulseX that we've never seen before in this way. I mean, buyback and burn has existed, but it hasn't existed in this automated way that individuals in the community can call the function. And so to me, and it's going to be encouraged with this new token as well. So this is special. This really is special. And I think that if you look at other DEXs, I don't know what the upside's going to be, but it's got some built-in tokenomics that are absolutely genius. And, I learned all this stuff from K4K and others, but it made me realize that this is a real opportunity. And I think for people who missed the Pulse sacrifice, once again, Richard Hart delivers with another opportunity. And so here we go again, guys. Like
the fundamentals are amazing, as you said, like the buyback. I think Richard tweeted today, to be completely transparent, that a public function will probably, for the beginning at least, will not be possible due to some technical challenges. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, but still, like, it's just a matter of time till it will be fixed, you could say. But the fundamental is still in place, right? The buyback will just happen manually, you could say. But there are also great fundamentals, like it's deflationary, so there's no inflation at all, and also that the Pulse X will be the main or the premier DEX experience, as the automated market maker bot will harvest the majority of the liquidity for every PRC pair. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, and I'm very excited about it.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Once again.
Oh man, the time flies really. We are 90 minutes in. I could spend another 90 minutes, but we want to be time aware here. Matt, from my side, another final question. You're doing great streams. I think you started with recorded streams, but recently you started also to do live streams. Where do you see yourself in the next months, next years? Do you have any other plans ahead that you can already share with us? How do you see your role here in the Hex and Pulse and Pulse Hex community?
I appreciate that final question. There's really three types of content I want to create. One is, pre-recorded content that's really principle driven, that just helps share principles and historical context and kind of macro ideas. Those will be the pre-recorded stuff. And then there's interviews, and I really love hearing people's stories. I like to draw people out and understand how they got where they are. And so interviews is the second kind of bucket. And then the third is live streams. I'll probably do more live streams. I really enjoy the dynamic with Brandon from Rags to Riches. We're going to probably do more. I like doing special event stuff. I love the Saturday Night Live stuff where you can kind of, let your hair down. I'll probably do more live, but at the end of the day, I want to be encouraging to people. I want to help bring more people into the community. And I want also people to realize that this isn't just, it's not just about getting rich. I mean, you're likely going to get rich in the process, but what does that mean for you? And so I'm just trying to bring, some perspective, I guess, to this. But those are the three types of content I'll be making.
And Matt, what I wanted to ask again, we spoke about it in the beginning that you have to also onboard or think about other target groups, like maybe the elder, right? Do you also see yourself as a special role to onboard these kind of people because you maybe have more seniority, your streams are a bit more calm? Do you plan to I would say even focus a little bit on this group, or is it broadly?
I don't know that I'm focused outside of being authentic, and I think it draws in a group of people like that. If you don't swear, if you have gray hair, if you talk about sound principles, you treat money as a tool. There's a certain mature audience that is attracted to that, and I would say that a lot of people that have a lot of money are attracted to that. But as a secondary note, I'm involved in the nonprofit space, and the nonprofit world has a massive amount of money in endowments. And so to me, one of my long-term goals is to help people within the nonprofit sector who are essentially have a fiduciary responsibility to these big endowments to see crypto as an option. And the only way this real stodgy conservative group of nonprofit endowments will see Hex and Pulse as an option is if we clean up our act. And so I want to lead the charge in doing that so that people don't have reasons to say no. They have reasons to say yes.
Awesome. Yeah, we're looking forward to follow you. We are big fans.
And the authenticity comes across, let me tell you, Matt, speaking for myself, of course, I commented on your videos. I love it. And I'm looking forward to hear these nuggets and the idea stories.
Well, Meister, Misha, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. I'm usually on the other side of the mic, and you give me an opportunity to share my heart and all that. And it's just so cool. And it's so nice to have friends in Berlin.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meet you if we ever see each other in a live event. Vegas. I don't know. Are you going Vegas in March?
I'm planning on it. I don't have my tickets yet, but I'm planning on there. I'm actually going to be out there with my family a couple weeks ahead of time. So still planning on doing that. I'll be in Austin for the Austin meetup as the guys come through with the tour. So looking forward to meeting some of the folks in the Texas area.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome.
So thank you very much for this interview today. You've been a great guest, as you are very experienced. You talk very good, very well. And just thank you and all the best for your channel.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for all that you do for the community, and keep going. Keep going.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Crypto Heartbeat. See you around.
All right. Take care.
Good
Thanks,
night.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya. That was Crypto Heartbeat, classical Hex Grassroots. Yeah, Misha, Really nice you meant it. Time flight. I had 10 more questions. But
Yeah. There were a lot of things we could elaborate even more. Like just the beginning, Michigan State, we were hung up on that, but I also love to hear his, story of his state and
yeah.
upcoming.
I mean, we are not from the US, so for us it's super exciting. For somebody who tunes in from Michigan, it's like, hey guys, come on, skip
Exactly.
it.
US people be like, why is he so obsessed with the state? Yeah, Meister, do you want to give us the summary of today?
Yeah, absolutely. So our today's guest was Crypto Heartbeat, Matt. He grew up in Michigan, grew up with a family from the blue collar, like a blue collar family, very modest. Also privately participated in a hippies event through his parents. So a very funny and interesting mix here. Moved to Texas as Crypto Heartbeat mentioned. Started a nonprofit company there, is still involved in the nonprofit business. That's how also he got inspired to start with the pulsepromise.com. That basically is all about donating a little portion of the Pulse or Pulse X that hopefully gain value in the future, and then you can donate a huge amount of money to whatever cause is good, whatever cause you think will help. This is a very noble thing. He was very interesting that Crypto Heartbeat got introduced to crypto by his brothers, and they actually wanted to mine it. Very funny story that Crypto Heartbeat found out about Hex not through Richard Hart, not through a buddy, but actually through a real TV ad. So this is hilarious. But apparently it worked. So kudos to the one who set it up. I really enjoyed also his motivations, why he supports these communities is because of this gratitude, the niceness, the supporting of the little man, you could say. So I definitely support that as well. And this is also one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of this community. And what we can expect from Crypto Heartbeat in the future is more of his pre-recorded streams that he started with. Also, he would love to do more interviews and more live streams in the future. So stay tuned, guys, for Crypto Heartbeat.
Thank you, Meister, for the summary. Guys, this was Hex Grassroots number 11, special guest Matt from Crypto Heartbeat. And now have a good night and enjoy maybe the stream of DJ Cryptomatic at Twitch. Good night. Bye-bye.
In 90 minutes. See you guys.